Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. Okay, so here we are for another week of fantastic questions. We've got plenty to go at today. It could be a bit of a bumper episode, so you might want to make yourself a cup of tea or coffee and get ready to hit these questions. We're going to jump to them in just a minute, but before we do, we've got a very special mission to grow the Kendo population by using the YouTube algorithms, ninja robots. All you have to do is like, share, subscribe, enable notifications, write a comment down below. That's it, easy, right? Not many steps. What happens is YouTube sends out a crack team of ninja robots to go and find people who are on the cusp of beginning their Kendo journey, and it gets them to start by reasonable and non-coercive means, of course. But to do that, what you have to do, you have to like and share the video. Okay, that switches on the robots, ninjas. And then you have to click the little subscribe button, and there's a little triangle. You click that and there's a bell, says notifications, something like that. You click that, and that notifies the robot ninjas of what they need to do. And they know that it's Kendo by you writing a comment in there that uses the word Kendo. What a great Kendo video. This is the best Kendo video I've ever seen. Wow, what an amazing Kendo video, and things like that. And then they know what they're doing. They're just suggestions, of course. Pretty sure that's how it works. We've already had 8 million people start Kendo from it. We're aiming for 2 billion by January. I'm pretty sure that's realistic. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Not had confirmation from YouTube. I have written to them. I've reached out to them to confirm this is the case or not. And I am taking their silence as affirmation. So I think that means yes, all right? Because they didn't say no. But what could be more important than that? You ask, well, if you like this video, if you like videos like it, if you like the feedback videos that I do, the analytical videos that I do, I watch some Kendo, and either it's Kendo you've sent in and we give you some feedback, everybody learns from it, or whether it's I watch some Shiai videos and analyze it a bit. I've not done one in a while. Last one I did was Shiai I did myself over in Japan last year, called Kenkaku. It was a really interesting, fun, different tournament. If you haven't seen that, go and watch that, because that was kind of a fun event as well. And then, of course, there's the instructional content. Did one recently about Men Kaishido, a very important, valuable waza for all Kendoka. And I have a new one coming out very, very soon as well. It's all filmed and it's half edited. I've got to do a bit more on it, but it will be coming out in the next week or two. If you like all that stuff, then support the channel. I don't ask for subscriptions. You don't have to pay anything. There's no weekly subscription fee or any of that stuff. You don't have to pay for subtitles, nothing like that. All you have to do to support the channel, and this is the best thing because it's a win-win situation, is shop at KendoStar.com. KendoStar.com is the best Kendo equipment website in the history and the future of the universe, galaxy, everything that's ever existed and ever will exist. Now, of course, I would say that because I own the place, but everyone agrees with me, all right? I know there's pretenders and what have you popping up left, right, and centre, seeing what we're doing, think they can sort of clone what we're trying to do, and it just doesn't work like that, all right? It just doesn't work like that. I'm not operating out of my bedroom or basement or anything like that. We're not just third party like in between men, middlemen, that's the word, isn't it? For other brands. We're not drop shipping your stuff from the other side of the world. We're an established brand made especially for the international Kendo community, all right? And there's a reason we're the market leader, yeah? KendoStar is the best, all right? So you get the best equipment, you get the best service. Nobody can match our service. You support the channel. And as the ancient Japanese proverb goes, He was in a TV show the other day, heard it. Guy said it just before he did seppuku. He said, everyone's a winner, baby. That's the truth. Like that. Okay, there's a TV show on, what's it called? Like Daimyo or Taiko or something like that. One of those Japanese titles. Got a foreign guy in it with a beard. Right, next. Let's get to the questions. Oh, I love that show, by the way. Okay, so, hey, the other day, I was thinking about taking my point away if I decide I was awarded a wrongfully an ippon. I'd jump happily so my point would be annulled. Is there a more elegant way to show Shimpan I did not make a good ippon? Okay, so I read this comment and I commented on it a little bit as well. So what you're saying is if you don't, you decide, because that's the key phrase there, I decide, that you were awarded the ippon when you shouldn't have been, then, you know, you want to be able to take it away. No, you can't do that. And if it's certainly not elegant to jump around happily to try and get the torikeshi. It's kind of, don't do that. It's not cool. And it's not as noble as you think it is. It's kind of arrogant, if I'm honest. All right, so I'm not dunking on you, right? I'm not. I understand what you're saying, okay? Because you don't want to like win dishonorably, right? But it's kind of arrogant, right? Because you're saying you know better than the Shimpan, and you don't. Okay, you don't decide. You don't decide. That's the point. Is you don't decide what is ippon and what isn't. The Shimpan do. If you don't like the decision, tough. Doesn't matter if it's in your favor or not. It's not for you to decide. All right. So kind of, you know, trying to intentionally have a point annulled is kind of. It's not no. No. You don't do that. Don't do that. All right. Don't do that. I don't think there's any opponent. I think, well, maybe there's some, but I think most opponents would not appreciate that either, to be honest. If the Shimpan thought, if the Shimpan lifted their flags, it means that you exposed a weakness in your opponent and you're now trying to deprive them of their opportunity to learn from it by trying to have that revoked. So, yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. It's not as cool as you think it is. Trust me. Okay, next one. Hello, Fish Sensei. During my last practice, Senpai pointed out that I was always trying to open the line to hit men with a harai or hari. I even tried to provoke a kote strike and do suriage men. As I told him, it's because with my seme, I can't create an opening and I feel need to push aside my opponent's shinai to have the chance to strike. So he told me that I have to learn to scare, and that's a lifelong path. Do you have any tips for making my first steps on this path? Being impressive and creating an opening with just my seme, thanks. So one is kamae, making sure that your kamae is good and you have the correct physical kamae, but also the good kigamae, so the good spiritual kamae, and you're ready, mentally concentrated, and your left leg is ready to hit immediately. Okay, immediately. Then you need to have sharp waza, so your opponent starts to perceive you as a credible and real threat. Okay? If they don't, then your seme is never going to work. All right? So it's about being able to present yourself as a realistic threat to your partner. All right? So that means being able to show them that you can perform waza sharply and in good order, and that you're ready to strike them immediately. And also you are good with ojuwaza as well, and it will all start to work, all right? But it is a lifelong path. There's no shortcut. There's no shortcut. There's no like, right, okay, so just hold it like this and it'll work. It doesn't work like that, I'm afraid. And of course, harai is valid, but it is normal. You go through this sort of phase where you're sort of, your seme isn't really leaving an impression on the other side, so you just try to just force your way in, and that can work, but really it's about polishing your ability so that your opponent starts to feel more like, okay, I got to watch myself here. That makes sense. It is a lifelong journey, I'm afraid. There's no silver bullet or magic pill on that, I'm afraid. Hello Fish Sensei, first of all, thank you for taking the time to do these Kendo rants and for running my favourite place to shop for Borga. Oh, no problem. I'm currently Shodan and I was able to be at a Kodan Shashinsa recently and watch parts of the 8th Dan tournament on YouTube. Whilst watching the Kodansha's matches, it really drove home for me that I really don't understand Seme, so I can't really understand what's going on between them. How should we lower ranked Kendoga approach Mitori Geiko with Kendoga at the highest levels? What should we try and take away from this at our Kendo journey, at this stage of our Kendo journey? Any pointers you might have would greatly be appreciated. Thank you in advance for your time. Yeah, that's a good question. I think the first thing is, especially if you're watching like the Hachidan Taikai on YouTube, you know, I think you can, you know, I think you can watch that and steal waza from it still, right? Even if you don't have the entirety of the sort of the build up and the precursor to the seme that makes the attack, you know, there's like nuances you can just lift from it, right? Okay, so, you know, maybe this sensei, okay, they did kote, but they didn't just go kote like that. They went up and kote like that, or they went men first and kote like that. So there's like waza you can sort of pick out and steal, is definitely the first thing you can do. And then I think the next thing is just to watch it and use the slow motion feature on YouTube and go back and see what happened in the sort of 5 seconds before the strike, and see if you can figure out what it is that made the strike happen. Of course, a lot of it's going to be difficult and maybe not necessarily going to understand it yet. But I think the first stage is just watching it and taking it in. Just watch it and take it in and try and sort of, I think the other thing is just kind of keep that mental image of what that sort of level of Kendo looks like. You know, what the kamae looks like, the shape that they make when they make kote strikes and men strikes and door strikes and ski strikes. And of course, it's not perfect. And they've got their own styles and nuances. But it's not far off. Like, none of it's wrong. Really. You know what I mean? Like, so, there's, you know. So, yeah. I think there's a lot to gain from it still. Yeah, if that makes sense. I am flying through these a little bit because we've got a lot of questions to go today. So, hi Sensei, thank you for providing us with another awesome Kendo video. No, thank you for watching. My question today is about body checking in Shiai, specifically the hockey style body check where a fighter would ram into their opponent with their shoulder with reasonable force after executing a close range waza like degote in an attempt to push him back or out the Shiaijo. I've seen this a lot in Shiai vids from Japan and even in local tournaments in my city. Would this kind of body checking be considered hansoku? It really depends on the context. Really depends on the context. It's not the right way to do it. Right? Definitely not like shoulders. And I know nothing about hockey. Right? But if you're like body check in with your shoulder, you shouldn't do that. Right? There's no tactical advantage to doing that, actually. If the Shimpan determine that you're doing it with the sole and only purpose of pushing the other person out of the Shiaijo, which by doing this you're going to give that impression, then yeah, you're likely to get the hansoku. Because the goal of the Shiai isn't to force your other person to receive the penalty. So if you play in that way, then you'll receive a penalty yourself. So, you know, that isn't to say you're not allowed to push them out if they stand by the edge of the Shiaijo. You are, but it has to be part of the fair back and forth of the Shiai, including an attempt to, you know, to look for the opportunity for waza. It doesn't mean you have to do the waza, but you can't just bowl them out and then, and you know, that be the complete and obvious sole intention of the action. Do you know what I mean? But it's really grey because it's all down to the judgment of the Shimpan. The one thing I would say, is don't do it. It's not cool and it's not right and it's not advantageous either. You can't make any sort of attack from sort of doing with your shoulder this way. You do the tai atari. Tai atari is valid and part of Kendo. Yeah, tai atari and then hikiwaza if you can. All right, that's different. Yeah, it's not, you know, we shouldn't be doing it, you know, getting into that sort of level of physicality if we can help it. Okay. Hello, Fish Sensei. Just curious, what is your favorite boga to use during grading? What kind of equipment do you like to look for to use during grading? Okay, so I haven't done a grading in a while. My last grading was about 5.5 years ago. The boga I wore at my last grading, probably the most similar one that we have to it now, is the current Kamui Umbra special edition set. That was probably the closest one to it, because it was lightweight, it looked really cool, and it was easy to travel with. My next one is reasonably soon. And actually I have a boga that I will be using for it, probably. And I have two. I'm undecided between which it is that I'll actually be using. One is the Akatsuki Hinomaru boga that we've got, which I absolutely love. I've been using that a lot, especially for like my higher level practices with higher level senseis and stuff like that. And then I have another Hinomaru one, which is it's a yet to be released model, but it's quite similar in lots of ways to the Kiraboshi. Okay, the Kiraboshi, again, it's another Hinomaru made in Japan boga set, very, very beautiful premium boga set. So I'll be using one of those sets for my next grade. Bearing in mind my next grade is as a higher level dan grade. It's the next one will be attempting will be for the 7th dan. So you know, I kind of want to look the part a little bit as well. So in terms of what do I like to look for use during gradings, if that means what I like to use during the grading, or as a grading panelist, what am I looking for candidates to use? I'm not sure what you mean, but if it's what I like to use, as I said, I'm looking for something for my next one, because it's, like I say, I'm taking the 7th dan next. I'll be trying to, I want something that looks like quite high, like a sort of high grade boga. But I'm not overly that fussed. I don't think they're judging me on the boga. I just want something that I know is going to sit on me nicely and is going to present the correct appearance. So, and pretty much, well, any of the KendoStar bogas will do for that. I could do that in any of them, because it's about how I wear it more than the material itself, right? But I do want something I think that uses high grade materials, and I'm probably going to use a bamboo door as well, probably. But again, I've got to travel, so there's that to consider as well. But it's got to be comfortable. It's got to be something that I feel fits me perfectly, and something that I feel gives off the right appearance. Kendoyin Hakama has to be the cotton one, Aizome cotton one. I'm not going to use a synthetic one, of course. And I haven't quite decided on which set I'll use for that yet. Has to have no embroidery on it. So I might use a new set, because most of the ones I have embroidery on already. And then in terms of Shinai is really going to depend on my mood nearer the time, but I'm really liking the Ichigeki Shinai that we recently started stocking. So I'll probably use something like that if I'm still in the current frame of mind. In terms of if I am, and my bokuto, I'll use the same bokuto that I've been using since I was Yondan. I think it was, I bought it like on my 2nd day of moving to Japan. So that was like 12, 13, 14 years ago, something like that. And it's just a basic bokuto. It's not fancy. If I was a grading panel, I don't look at people's equipment in terms of the quality of it. I just look at if it is in a good state of repair and not all like torn and ripped and faded. And I check that it's been worn properly, and that's it. I don't look at what brand it is, of course. I don't look at what what quality it is. If someone is testing for fourth dan, I'm not gonna, and they're using a sort of entry-level burger, I don't think that should be something that's necessarily used against them, as long as they're wearing it correctly. Okay. Next one. Hello, Andy Sensei. I noticed that when I hit the men, my right shoulder moved forward and the body twists a little bit. Have you any advice on how to fix this? I think there's a natural, the right shoulder should be in front of the left one, but if you move it forward too much as you hit, then yeah, of course you're going to twist. I think the issue here comes from, there's two things that it could be. One is too much strength in the right hand, so concentrate on swinging the shinai more with the left hand. More importantly, it's more likely, right, that your left foot is turned out slightly, so your hips are not fully square, and then when you hit, your body is turning this way, and that's why your right shoulder is coming forward. So I'm not sure if it's definitely that your body is twisting because your right shoulder's forward. It's possible that your right shoulder's coming forward because your body is twisting because of the alignment of your hips, which is related to the alignment of your left foot. All right, so if your left foot is too far out this way, then of course you'll turn this way as you push forward. So I would look at those two areas, to be honest. Next one, here's one. How common is a 40+ minutes shiai, like last Saturday's shiai between Nabeyama Sensei and Iwasa Sensei at the Hachidan tournament? That was crazy, wasn't it? Absolutely crazy. What a great Hachidan Taika it was. They're uncommon. 40-minute Enjo is super uncommon. Shiai with Enjo is super uncommon because most people will really struggle to retain their concentration for that long, and that's what it becomes a battle of, right? After a certain point, it becomes a point of, right, who's going to lose concentration or focus first in this shiai, and it just speaks to the level of those two shiaisha, right? It just speaks to how amazing they both are, to have competed for so long like that, sort of neck and neck all the way through that massive match. But it's not very common. No, it's not very common at all. It was wonderful though. Next one. Hello again, and thank you for everything you do. No, thank you. Kendo, do Kendo, shop for Kendo, and Kendo is life. Shop for Kendo at KendoStar, I think you meant. For the ninjas here. Third week in a row with questions. I hope you can provide some advice. No problem. From the beginning, I've struggled with fumikomi as it hurt doing it. Even now, yes, I do fumikomi when striking and it's fairly okay, but I do have to wear a heel protector or pad to avoid injuring my foot. Is there a way to go back to not wearing it and potentially any drills to fix my fumikomi landing? I realise it's mainly hard without a video, but I assume it's a fairly common issue. Mine is a years-long habit. I hope to break it somehow. I'd like to mention that I'm also quite flat-footed, and I don't know if it's bearing on the issue, but I thought I'd mention that. So I think the main sort of issue people have with this sort of thing, I think it is quite common. I think the main thing is people focus too much on stamping with the right foot. So it's like stamp this way and you stamp down hard with the right foot, and that's why you start to get this pain. Rather than the real point of it all is to launch forward with your left foot, launch forward. Right, and the fumikomi is sort of a byproduct of how you move your feet to, as you launch forward and engage everything together, and bam, into this one strike. So I think probably you're focusing too much on the right foot, and I think you should focus more on the left foot to launch your body forward, and don't worry about the like, oh, is my fumikomi making a nice loud bang or loud noise or anything like that. That will come. That will come. I wouldn't worry about that all too much. Okay, so focus more on pushing from the left rather than stamping with the right. Okay, let's have a look. Hi Andy, I'm really keen to start my Kendo journey. I've been a student of other Budo, Jujutsu, Iaido, Kenjutsu for most of my life until illness stopped me a few years ago. I'm now ready to start practicing again, and Kendo fascinates me. It's far more nuanced than I expected before. I began watching all the videos and reading books, etc. I've even found a decent looking dojo in Preston, close to my home, with a couple of great sensei. I'm guessing that's my dojo, because my dojo's in Preston, in the UK. So question is, another how old is too old one. We've all seen Kendo who's still practicing to their 60s and 70s. Seen plenty of I'm 27, is that too old? So I'm 58 with damaged knees. I can still do Sonkyo, but Seizai is problematic. Is that too late to start? I have no particular ambitions for competitive success. National teams winning high level Shiai. Given my starting point, I'd be delighted to make Sandan. Thank you very much for all you do. Okay, so it's never too old to start. That's definitely, you know, definitely the case. It's not too, you're not too old to start. That's fine, but of course, as you've rightly pointed out, there's going to be some limitations. All right, now being able to do Sonkyo, great. Not being able to do Caesar is not necessarily a huge problem. And you know, yeah, no ambitions of sort of competitive success in terms of national teams and high level shit. That's fine. It's going to be hard. I'm not going to lie. It's not easy. Kendo is very, very difficult, and it's very, very particular. And I'm going to be honest because I think it's important to be. It's great to hear you've done other Budo, right? But Kendo's not like those, and it's nothing to do with those. So just let me just be really, really clear from the start. This might as well say badminton and I don't know, like darts and let's say like diving or skiing, yeah, because they're just not relevant. Okay, they're just not relevant. All right, so there's nothing that you can bring over from them, and it will, you know, you'll be able to merge it in. It doesn't work like that with Kendo, I'm afraid. All right. So now that might, I'm not saying it might be the case that, you know, you'll learn something and it'll be, oh, well, that's similar to how it is in that or whatever. That's fine. But the Kendo way is the Kendo way, and it's different to the other ways. It might be different, it might not, but I don't know because I don't know anything about the other arts. But all I'm saying is you have to be very careful not to slip into the trap of, well, this is how it is. Oh, there's, for example, Iaido. Oh, well, there's Chudan no Kamae in Iaido, so we'll do that, you know, so I know that already. It's not the same, it's a different one. And it's very, very different, very different. Even if it looks a bit similar, yeah. So I'm just to be clear on that. So I'd like you to approach it with a very, very fresh, should we say, be a blank canvas, rather than, oh, I'm bringing this experience, because it won't help you. It could do the opposite. In my experience, it has done for others in the past, being a barrier to overcome rather than a benefit. Now, giving your starting point, you'd like to get to Sandan. That's perfectly possible. That's perfectly possible. But again, it's not easy. Okay, it's not easy. The thing that most people struggle with in Kendo is learning how to do fumikomi, which is the stamp or the leaping stamp, and timing that properly with the strike. Now, if that's something you can get the hang of, then that's great. But it's not easy to do. Okay, it's not easy to do. And it's not that is necessary to pass the gradings, but passing the gradings become a lot easier if you're able to do it, shall we say. All right. So if we're realistically looking at an ambition of Sandan, then that's cool. I definitely think we can make that. But it is gonna be it's gonna be work. It's gonna mean work. All right. Now if you're up for that, that's fine. And of course, we'd love to have you at Preston Dojo if that's the dojo you're referring to. So yeah. But definitely, you're not too old at all. Definitely not too old. Okay. Next one. Hi, Andy. Been thinking about this a lot, and I've been interested in hearing your thoughts, reflections on it. Back when I just passed my Sandan, I was saying goodbye to a strong Japanese player who was leaving the club. Okay, I remember this question. I sort of read this in the group. He was saying the usual niceties, but when he got to me, he laughed and he said, I feel very sorry for you. The more you improve, the less interesting you become, and the easier you are for me to beat. I'm now starting to prepare for Godan, and one of my objectives ahead of the exam in a couple of years is to make my Kendo smoother and more logical. I'm sure there's a more suitable Japanese word I'm lacking here. Shave off the weirdness, random attacks, unnecessary movement, and give my Kendo clear logic that can be followed from Seme to execution of Waza. Well, recently I started to hear some of the same things from seniors. Predictable, boring, too obvious. It got me thinking that to that comment, funny what sticks with you, and thinking more generally about how to build unpredictability and interest in a Kendo style that is moving away from relying on reflex. Sounds like you may have grappled with something similar in the past, so it would be really interesting to hear your reflections. All right, so this is a really interesting question. It is a really interesting question. So what he's saying is, right, is a Japanese visitor told you when they were leaving that, and I'm paraphrasing, but to just take the crux of the point is, as you are improving, your Kendo is becoming easier for them to hit you, okay? Because it's less random. So how am I going to tackle this? Because this is a difficult one. The thing is, right, I think a lot of people get confused on this because if you go too far down the like correct sort of textbook orthodox road, then you get to this point of what's called yariyasu, so easy to deal with because it's predictable. Yeah, you know what's going to happen. But then you can go down the opposite side of being unpredictable, and then you just become what's called henken, which is just like weird, and nobody likes that. It's not nobody likes, people doing it like it. But it's like, then you start to hit barriers, especially when you start looking at like Godan, Rokudan, Nanadan. You know. So I think I have had this, right? I used to get told it a lot. When I first moved to Kumamoto, I started getting involved in really competitive Kendo in Japan. Like, people like, look, your Kendo's really beautiful, but it's too easy to deal with, right? Because I was caring too much about making my Kendo beautiful than I was about making it practical and effective. That wasn't to say I was trying to cut corners or find peculiarities in my Kendo that would sort of make me difficult to deal with in that sense. I wanted, in other words, the Kendo that is the best, especially if you want to pass higher level gradings and you want to be successful in higher level Shiai, then your Kendo has to be like correct, and at the same time, I think the unpredictability comes from the Seme rather than from the physical movements. So there needs to be an unpredictability, but the best ones are like when you practice with that very high level player and they do the Seme, like, oh, I don't know what to do, right? Like, that's the kind of unpredictability. Not this like, oh, what is this guy doing sort of thing, where they're kind of coming at you like a helicopter, like this sort of thing, jumping up and down and swinging left to right, you know, and they manage to bash your borg somewhere and it really hurts or something. And it's like, okay, and they're like, it's all disjointed, and that's why it hits you, because the timing is like, you know, it's like sometimes like if you're playing on like a video game like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat or something like that, and you like give the controller to like a 5-year-old or something that don't know what they're doing, they just start bashing away, and like it's random, so it's hard to read it. It's a bit like that. It's a difficult thing to explain clearly, but I think people get really misunderstand it, because I think there's a misunderstanding of you called Datot as well, in that it's about hitting the Borger, and if you hit, then that's okay. That means it's the point, and there's no care for the really important aspect of the actual Datot, which is the creation of the Datot, because the strike itself is just the result of this of the actual process, right? Whereas, so rather than like just bashing at the borger, there's a process that's created this datotsu no kikai, this brilliant opportunity. And it's not just random, just hit. Oh, I'm faster. Oh, I have this weird timing. My hands and feet are out of sync. So when you thought the shinai was coming, it was actually coming a split second later. So I managed to hit the borger. Like, yeah, but that's not the datotsu no kikai. That's kind of just luck. So, and sort of oddness. Whereas the really good Kendo guy, in my view, you know, the Kendo, it doesn't look janky or weird, right? Have the good Seme, and then it's really easy to Shimpan as well, because the Shimpan can see the datos coming. The Shimpan can read it from the outside, yeah. So it's like I say, it's more about the unpredictability of the Seme rather than the actual datotsu, which is that follows the pattern of the Seme. It's just that you've managed, you know, the idea is that you're able to control the interpretation of your Seme with that the opponent takes. That makes sense. You know, rather than just bash, oh, one hit, okay, or whatever. I think that's the big thing. I think it's a big, like, I think it's a really big stumbling block when you start to go up the grades, like Godan to some extent, but certainly when you start getting like Rokudan, Nanadan, I think that's when it really starts to become about like understanding the Datotsu no Kikai, and also the kind of the battle of for the sen, for the initiative. Whose waza is this, right? Who's created this opportunity, you know? And then the shinai making contact with the boga is just the result. That's the result of the equation, rather than the, you know, the sort of main thing. You know, the work's been done, and then that's where it is. That makes sense. It's a really difficult topic. But like I say, it's not about bashing the borga. It's about having the correct kendo that still dominates the other side, and allows you to control the situation at hand. Okay, next one. Hello, I've been doing Kendo for a long time, 14 years at a local dojo in Japan. Since I passed 4th dan a year or two ago, I've started to be given more roles in the dojo. One, because I attend almost every keiko, and my kids and my wife are there too. The past year I was in charge of leading practice for middle schoolers and adults from time to time, even with other high-ranking sensei were around as appointed by the head sensei. Sadly, the head 7th dan sensei recently informed us he is unwell and will require abdominal surgery and need to take some time off. He asked that the club representative, another 4th dan, and another sensei and myself run the practices while he's recovering over the next couple of months. My question is, can I change things up, like what is practiced or how practice is run by a little, or should I continue to run it as if he was there? I like the practice as and I love all the teachers at my dojo. Just always wondered how much change can take place, and for people filling in this role, it might be good to know. So that's an interesting situation you found yourself in. I've sort of been there a little bit as well. My advice on this is I'd talk to the other senseis that you've been trusted with and say, ask them what they think. Because it's not for me to say. It really depends on the culture and atmosphere at the dojo itself. And if you were to make any changes, I would make small changes rather than big changes. Even if you want to make a reasonably big change in the long run, I'd make it as a series of small changes. So, you know, maybe, okay, well, we always practice this, and this, but I'd really like to practice this as well. So maybe we can do this practice and this practice for 5 minutes shorter each, and we'll just do 10 minutes of that. And I'd run it by the other senseis first and say, look, you know, I was thinking with the middle schoolers, and especially if you need to have a reason behind it. You know what I'm saying? Don't just make something up for the point sake of doing it or just to prove, you know, I'm not saying this is what you're doing, but like you say, for other people, there is a tendency, of course, to kind of put your own stamp on it to prove that it's your class or something like that. You don't need to do that. Just, you know, okay, look, I noticed I noticed recently that a lot of the middle schoolers are losing hikiwaza. Like, we lost a lot of hikiwaza. So do you think we could, what do you think if we spent 10 minutes just practicing some hikiwaza so that they get to be able to hit some hikiwaza as well? Something like that. And, you know, as long as you get, if you're able to explain yourself and put a good case forward, I don't see anyone saying like, no. No one's going to say that, right? But they might say, look, no, I think we should stick to Nani Nani Sensei's schedule or curriculum. And you say, okay, that's fine, I understand. And, you know, there's nothing, and, you know, you could talk with the sensei directly about it, the head sensei, if you get the chance, but I wouldn't go in there making vast swathes of change. I just handle it diplomatically. Yeah. And speak with the other people involved. That's, you know, yeah. Okay, we're nearly there. We've got a few more. We're nearly there. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Okay, hello Fish Sensei again. Thank you for doing this. It means a lot. Apologies for having more than one question. These technical points may have been pesky in the back of my mind. Sorry. First question, when is Hidari left kote valid for Ippon? I've heard Sensei saying as soon as the left hand is raised, it's fair game, and others only when it's in Jordan position or his Nito counterpart. Is Hidari kote valid for Ippon as soon as the left hand is raised or even a few inches, centimeters? Hidari kote is valid whenever the opponent is not in Chudan. So if the opponent is not in Chudan, then the left kote is valid, okay? So if they block like this kote is valid. They block like this kote is valid, all right? If they, you know, whatever, right? They go to Gedan, and good luck trying to hit it. But if they're not in Chudan, the left kote is valid, okay? That's what it says in the rule book, right? Second question, I was originally taught to distribute my weight 70% on the front foot and 30 on the back, but recently high level said 50-50, high level sensei, sorry, said 50-50 weight distribution on both feet. I've come to think 50-50 is the superior, considering the ability to move in any direction in a more controlled manner. Also, stopping is easier. What do you think about the weight distribution on the feet? I'd say 60-40 on the, no, 50-50 is probably good, with a slight bias to the left leg. Slight bias to the left leg, but without leaning back, okay? That's what I would say. Final question. I've been having trouble with hyperextension of my arms causing tennis elbow. Yeah, it's common in Kendo. I believe I heard at one point in time that there should be a slight bend in the arms whilst cutting, striking. This slight bend would perhaps mitigate the elbow pain. Is there a slight bend when striking, or is hyperextending the arm tried and true way? Would be grateful for your professional opinion. I'm not a professional in this area, but okay. If you ask me how Borga, that's my professional opinion. Right. When you strike, there's different people say different things. Some people say you should have the elbow slightly bent. I don't think so. I think the elbow should be straight, but not locked straight. Okay. So you should be able to, you should be reaching as far as you can. All right. So my arms are pretty much straight. But if you have good tenuity, shouldn't do too much to your elbows. But tennis elbow is an issue in Kendo. It's something I've struggled with myself, perhaps for that reason, but I still think it's the right way to hit. All right, still think it's the right way to hit. I think if you're hitting with the elbows bent, I don't think you're going to get proper saye. All right, for the most part. Of course, some people can do it. All right, it's just my opinion. Next one. Hi Sensei, how protective is orizashi kote? My friend let me use his orizashi kote in the middle of a tournament. The kote was soaked and I found it was really flexible, like any other cotton gloves for regular use. I saw a video of boga making before, and the boga makers use straws and newspaper for the padding. Newspaper? Aren't those material prone to moisture, making the gear less protective? How about durability? I guess those orizashi kote, cotton kotes are less durable. I hope you would explain more about this. Thank you very much. So orizashi is the fabric used for the kendogi. So some of our kote have orizashi construction. We tend not to use orizashi on the kote atama, that's the fist position, portion. The only models we do use that on is Victory and the Kamui Umbra. But it is less durable, so we fix what's called a yakko onto it as well, basically a leather section to protect it where it wears away the most, all right? Because they tend to wear away, or they tend to burst as well. So that's why we put that leather there to stop any of that. But that's why we don't really have any full orizashi ones. The only other one we have is the Hinomaru Kensei, isn't it? Kensei, yeah. The entry level one. Both my daughters have got that. And yeah, that I wouldn't say it's more or less protective. It's not a protective thing. It's, you know, it dries a bit faster. It shouldn't be packed full of straw and newspaper. That is not a good idea. All right. They should be packed with either wata, which is like we say like cotton. It could be synthetic, but like the stuff they put inside pillows and like stuffed toys and stuff like that. That sort of stuffing. Or traditionally it'll be deer hair. Traditional real deer hair. Some of ours have either. You don't want straw and newspaper, right? But yeah, it's not about the orizashi fabric itself does not affect the protection, all right? But there are some jissengata or like shiai sort of Borgen models out there that use these orizashi kote that are just like paper thin and they're just like gloves, and they are not really safe, if I'm honest. In fact, there's the All Japan Kendo Federation has started to clamp down on it, and if the kote aren't safe, you're not allowed to use them. So yeah, yeah, like I say, look, if you buy from KendoStar, you're not gonna have any of those troubles, because trust me, like I say, I've been in this industry a long time. A long time. I've been and seen it pretty much everything. I did this in Japan for a long time as well, don't forget. I know pretty much all of the stuff that's going on in Japan in terms of the Borgen manufacturing stuff. I know some of the cheeky little tricks they're using. And like, I have seen where they've, used dodgy materials to stuff their Borger. Shop at KendoStar and you're not going to have to worry about any of that stuff. You're not going to get broken fingers. You're not going to get told you're not allowed to use your kote at the day of the tournament. Something like that. Last one, I damaged my shinai recently, and when this happens, I usually maintain it and shave away the splinters, sand it, and if I'm feeling a little decadent, I'll oil it as well. Ooh. But when does a stave suffer enough chip damage that it needs to be thrown away and replaced? Thank you. Okay, so let's see what have we got here. I've got one here, right? I've got one here. This is Miyuki's shinai. This is my wife's shinai. But as you can see, this is in need of repair. This is in need of repair. Now, looking at it, this is still within the realms of what can be repaired. All right, you see these splinters and stuff like that. You need to be careful because they will stick in your hand. Right, we've got some on this side as well. What we're going to do is we're going to shave this. We're going to sand it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to rub it with some beeswax. And it'll probably be all right for a bit longer. All right, and I'll probably rotate it around as well because it looks like this is the side she's been hitting with. But if I turn it around that way, then I could just turn it around. Yeah, if I turn it around that way, this side hasn't been hit very much. So we can do that. Now, we can do that sort of as much as we want. All right, we can do that as much as we want until there's a proper break in the stave. All right, and obviously there's, you can't leave it with this on, but you shave it and rub it all away and it'll be all right. However, every time you do it, you're obviously taking some weight out of the shinai. All right. So at some point, two things are going to happen. One, the shinai's going to get lighter. And second, there's going to, as you start to shave it, you're going to start to get gaps between the shinai like that. Like that. Like that. Like that. Ooh. Like that. Yeah, you're going to get gaps in the shinai and stuff. And then you're not going to be able to use it in a tournament. All right. But you can use it for practice. Just in your everyday practice. Yeah. But yeah. But until it like properly breaks, then you can still, salvage it most of the time and it should be okay. Okay. So there we go. We made it to the end. I know it's been a long show today. We got through a lot of questions. I hope you had fun. I certainly did. I hope you have a great weekend of kendo planned ahead of you. And I'll see you in the next show, episode, video. Shop at KendoStar. See you next time. Bye-bye.